Record Breakers in 3, 2, 1.
Still offering to the drum machine, you put another face on my heart. The stars singing for streaming color, the odd symbol repeating. Not gonna be held back by the range's hour. No reaction without pain, I got lost. That pedal pages go. Give up the throw today.
Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music, or chair music? I don't know. Share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a little book club for music. It's really fun. I'm Petey Rave, and I'm a radio and TV broadcast programming major. So an associate's in science, community college. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew. I was gonna say squad and crew, and then I said screw. So I was like, my quorum. We've got David.
I'm David, and I have a 4-year honorable discharge from the United States Air Force.
Mm-hmm. We've got Drew.
I recorded an album once.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we are with a new round of episodes, a new cycle, a new set of editions of the podcast. And of course, we started off with a new round of episodes. We have a new guest. We have the one, the only friend of the show, friend of all of us, Snoosh, aka
Twitch streamer extraordinaire.
Hi.
Art Snowschu.
Shu-chan! Hello, Shu-chan.
Hi, Oni-san.
Yeah.
I still feel bad about being so busy when I was in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, man. The fuck? I'm really mad. I'm not mad. I'm not mad, but I feel hurt on the inside.
Hurt Shu-chan. How dare you?
Yeah. No, I stream video games on the internet under Snowschu. I have a cat face. Clearly not right now.
Yes.
I have to take, I have to like get out of my fursona. No, it's not a fursona. Stop it. It's not
a persona. I don't want to insult. I don't want to insult. Her fursona is completely different.
If you want to discuss this, if you have opinions on fursonas, you can talk to Shu-chan on Twitter at KingCaz.
Yes, exactly. We're here to, of course, talk about an album, new episodes, new crew, new guest, new round of episodes. We start off the new round, of course. It's my turn. So I always go first.
He's the ace. The ace in the rotation.
I'm the lead off. I can, like I said, may not hit home runs, but I can at least get on base.
About that bass.
Speaking of our album, I'm the provider of the album, my album. We're going to be talking about an album by a young, talented Asian nerdcore rapper by the name of Lex The Lexicon Artist. Her album by the name of Raging Ego. It's a really cool album. It's a really cool album to discuss. Let's talk about expectations. David, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Here is what I will say, PD Rave Record Breakers listeners. I came into this album expecting something, and in the end, I got exactly what I expected. It is about as on brand as you could expect. It's exactly what it says on the tin, which I'm a fan of.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I would say some of the same. I was expecting. I heard that it was something that dabbled in the nerdcore variety, so I was expecting some rhymes with the lyrics. I was expecting maybe some nerdy subject matter at times. I was expecting a female-toned vocal, as per the cover in the name. Other than that, I wasn't sure what I was getting into from a musical standpoint. Were we getting more musicality? Were we getting more straight rap beats? Were we getting maybe video game samples? Wasn't sure about that bit. But I was excited to see what we had, and which end of the nerdiness spectrum we were going to be on.
Mm-hmm. Snoosh, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Oh, I have zero expectations. Doesn't matter. Cover, name, nothing. I have zero expectations, and that's how I love going into all things, because it's like I neither have a positive nor negative influence about what this album could have been.
Yes. This is a really cool hip-hop album. This is Lex the Lexicon Artist. She's a rising star in the nerdcore community. She looks like this and that.
Question?
Yes.
Was she at Nerdcore South by 2 years? Not this year, but last year.
I'm sure. I believe they have been.
She has like blonde kind of. She's kind of like blonde hair, right?
No, they do not have blonde. You're thinking Shubzilla. I know.
Shubzilla. Oh, okay.
Yes, that one was the one that was pregnant this last year and ran off the stage and was jumping on stage while visibly pregnant.
Okay.
She is.
Just making sure, because
I will bring Shubzilla on. She is Auntie Shubs will be brought onto the show in the future.
I just wasn't sure if this was her, because I couldn't remember. I don't remember names.
No.
Not to confuse all Asian hip-hop rappers. Okay, They're all individuals.
That's on Twitter at King Kaz, everybody.
Yes. No, Lex didn't make an appearance at South by Southwest. I know she was at the Nerdcore Days in New Oregon, and they were at Nerdcore Night. Yeah, they were at Nerdcore Night. I know I watched a couple. I was there for a couple of performances of Peep Game, as we're going to talk about later on, where they threw the peeps.
Well, it was Easter.
A fan, yes. That being said, so this album is a really cool nerdcore album. It's a really cool hip hop album. It is well made and has fun beats. It is very, obviously, this is in that wheelhouse of very like vocals centric, with kind of the really solid beats, really solid foundational beats that lay a great groundwork for her delivering kind of what she has to say, and she does it really well. She's a gifted lexicon artist or lyricist. She has really good flow. She has a really good like charisma to herself. They have a really good like persona that that they kind of put into the album, and it's really cool and really fun. There's a lot of good wordplay. It does kind of have this back and forth of like bouncing back and forth between like these like high energy braggadocious like hip hop tracks to like these like contemplative like emotional tracks, which kind of has a nice like dichotomy in a way. And this, I think, also brings into the other really interesting thing about like nerdcore as a whole, because genre fiction and just talking and just rapping about genre fiction and things is no longer new, and is no longer the main thing.
It's no longer a novelty.
Yeah, it's no longer a novelty, and which is never was about the novelty, but it's no longer about, well, this isn't the thing that nobody's rapping about and nobody's allowed to talk about anymore, which is really cool. But now the thing that they're choosing to talk about, nerdcore rappers on the whole, but many of them, especially Lex the Lexicon Artist, is now things that now people are struggling with being willing to talk about and rap about and discuss, which is things like mental health issues, things like having a fear of commitment, things like that. Like those are like the themes that come up on this. I think that has been like the shift that we've seen with artists like Meg Rand, with Lex the Lexicon Artist, with Lex's mentor of sorts, Schaefer the Dark Lord, which is I think what paints this in a really cool light, especially Lex being a psych major, which makes it all fun. Okay, that's why it's called Raging Ego. Like it's the biggest thing.
There is a song saying psych major on it.
Exactly. We will talk about it in the track segment, but for sure. But let's talk about the album musically. David, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes and elements that stand out for you?
I would say that it was, in a lot of ways, it was very Nerdcore 101. And I don't mean that in a negative connotation. A few episodes back, I bought on King Crimson's Red, and our guest Mike Averant described that as being like progressive rock, like 305. This is Nerdcore 101. I think that musically, shout out to the 305, musically it is a little bit more interesting, shout out to Petey Rave, #interesting, than normally expected. The instrumentation stretches the expectations of nerdcore and the genre space that it occupies. But at its core, it is very much on brand to what you would expect with what Petey talked about. The artist that he mentioned, this album, Lex the Lexicon Artist, she very much fits in that space. And this album fits in that space very comfortably.
Mm-hmm. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
Well, so the music and the beats and whatnot, the backing tracks are great. I think that really does actually stand out on this, where it doesn't on some other nerdcore albums. The thing is that, like Petey said, like Beach said, it's something where nerdcore has come a long way. And for me personally, there's got to be a little bit more than what's on the tin. And it hits everything there, right? It hits the subject matter is all there. And there's some times, and we'll get into it a little bit in the tracks, where it deals in some things that maybe aren't the norm for rap music in general, right? But while the word choice and the word usage and the vocabulary is good as is, it's not like some albums, especially in hip hop, where it's like, oh, you know, like 120 words and you can rhyme 10 of them together. Got it. Cool. Like there's good word choice here. What is missing for me a little bit, and I'd like to see a little bit more inventiveness, is the flow itself. The reason I fell off of, say, funny you mention him, Schaefer the Dark Lord, a little bit, is because at times the rhythmic patterns in the word choice can be a little bit pedestrian. And not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just when I come to hip hop, I want something maybe a little bit out there as far as rhythmic flow. It's why I still listen to someone David brought in, Danny Brown, quite a bit. The word flow is a bit weird and a bit different, and it's using that almost like its own drum beat instead of fitting the words inside the drum beat. But everything there I think is really, really cool. I think, again, the part that really, really sets this apart from other nerdcore, for me personally, is that the music was such a surprise. It's more than just rap beats. It's more than just video game samples or samples in general. But afterwards, I was feeling myself remembering more of the music than I was the lyrical flow. The music was almost more of the catchy part than the word usage, as it were, which is weird to talk about in music. I understand that, but it's hip hop. It's kind of what it is, I guess.
Snoosh, how would you describe this album musically? What stands out for you?
Well, so kind of preface it, not to kind of downplay me, but like I don't
You
listen
doing
to
all right?
music.
You doing all right, Shu-chan?
Me?
You doing okay?
Oh, so I turned on the music really, really low in the background just to kind of keep the feeling going. So I'm bouncing to the beat a little bit. It's really quiet, so like I'm still listening to everyone. But either way, so I don't music the same way a lot of people do. Like I don't really analyze too much of the song because everyone finds their own personal viewpoints for every song, every album. For this album, I would definitely qualify it as like hip hop, and to me, it's like very strictly hip hop with some nerdcore elements. I find myself usually I don't pay attention to lyrics, and I know that's really odd for hip hop. Listening to hip hop, it's like not worrying about the lyrics for me. But I did find myself catching myself hearing the lyrics, and I found a lot of them. How do I word it? It sort of resonated with me in some ways, but not in a way that I felt like I could truly relate. It's like, oh, I get what you're going through, but I've never experienced it. But I thought she did a really interesting way to try to get me on her side to make me feel like what she's trying to say. And then I had a real fun time between the songs. Like she went with different like backbeats in some cases. Like there's a piano tone in one of the songs that like goes off with like a whole piano feel, and then another one had like a really soft tone that was surprising based on the other songs that preceded it. That's just kind of how I take it. But overall, I mean, it was very much hip hop, but it didn't necessarily go like, oh my god, my mind is blown. It was just kind of like, oh yeah, this is hip hop.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm still kind of I'm dancing to it because I have it on, but it's like just to kind of keep me in the mood.
Yeah, and we're getting into some of the tracks to kind of like bring that out. And it starts off really strong with Peep Game. It very much is the crowd participation song, literally, as Lex will often have a volunteer from the audience to either throw peeps into the audience or to
sorry, Lex, I find peeps to be rather gross.
No,
Sorry,
you gotta
Lex.
get the coconut ones.
Oh God, I hate coconut.
Yes.
Everything.
Ah, fuck that. Fuck off.
Coconut is the devil.
No, nobody eats the peeps. You just throw them and then you catch them.
Well,
and
The
they
devil's
on the
dandruff. The devil's dandruff.
The body sit the floor.
Also, remember to catch the peeps.
Catch the peeps?
Catch the peeps, so they don't
Oh,
fall
catch
on the floor.
peeps.
Yes.
They don't
Catch.
fall on the floor.
So you don't mess up the venue. But yeah, Peep Game starts off really strong because it kind of sets the tone of like the personality you're coming into to experience. And it's fun and it's got a great wordplay and it's clever. And the instrumental is really cool. It's a nice sing along anthem. It definitely is the concert anthem, and it gets immediately followed by artist anthem. Which is another sing-along anthem, but about the deep depression of being a creative artist. It's literally the hook is I need professional help. I am an artist and I hate myself. Like it is a catchy hook about hating oneself. And so it's the trope of the lyrical dissonance, which I think it works really well. I think another pairing which is fun, the Luthor, which is a kind of like this high octane like angry song, or like kind of like this braggadocious song where she's rapping as Lex Luthor essentially, in kind of more abstract terms. And then it gets followed by the comparatively low key the L word, which talks about her struggling with commitment, and then like I gotta shout out Glasses I'll shout out Glasses as the one person on this podcast currently not wearing them, because it's a nice anthem for her kind of like owning kind of a part of herself that she got mocked for and she got made fun for, and kind of like saying, no, these are, this is my badge, these are mine.
I need them to see, you idiots.
Exactly. So get off your ass and she's a rock star, hit him with the glasses. But it's fantastic stuff. David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
The L Word. I felt like the tone and the verses of the song were really, really creative, and as well as the chorus was really well done. And there was a callback later on the album that I really appreciated. Also, Curse of Creativity. It was a less overtly self-loathing than Artist Anthem, but it had the same message, and I enjoyed that. It was very clever, that song, on an album full of clever. That was one of my notes. This album is full of clever, and also Psych Major. I believe it's absolutely correct about itself, and the protagonist on that song was probably the heel. I think the protagonist was a heel on Psych Major.
Mm-hmm. Drew.
But a justified heel.
Yes, exactly. Drew, what would be some of the tracks that stood out for you?
So Peep Game, it started off, the crunchiness in the guitar rhythm I think feels really, really cool in Peep Game. That sort of grimy nature of it I think works really well with the bravado in the lyrics. There's something about it that at times feels a little try-hard, but then you start making jokes about marshmallows and then it is a little less try-hard, which I think works.
Yeah.
Sales Freak. I have to ask a question. Did she used to work at a GameStop? Because this feels like there's something about this that feels GameStop Manager 101 for some reason to me.
Find me a nerdcore rapper that didn't work at a GameStop.
Like
fair. Because there was like lines about like slinging pre-orders or something like that. I was like, oh my god, is this a game? This has that like circle of life thing written all over it. This is scary to me. But good. I liked it. The joke was funny. It landed. I chuckled in the car to myself alone. And then the L Word. This is the one track on there that felt super genuine, and like super autobiographical to the point of like, hey, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn that sometimes like my music with a little bit of autobiography and a little bit of sadness, and I think that the L Word sort of hits those points for me. It doesn't have to prove a point or make a joke or anything like that. It's just sort of that heart on the sleeve moment, while still making a little bit of light here and there, because everyone's going to have a little bit of self-deprecated humor about certain things like this. But there's something about it that was really genuine and heartfelt. Like, really kind of dig that, especially in hip-hop music, because you're getting more and more of it, and I think it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Snoosh, what would be some of the key tracks for you? What stood out?
Well, so it's really hard, as I mentioned, because like I don't necessarily listen to the lyrics closely, like, but it's hip hop, so it's a little, so it's like that's its whole thing. It's like, well, it's the wrong album for you, isn't it? But I tried. The ones that really kind of stood out were L Word and excuse me. It was mostly L Word because it was the one that had, I'm like, oh, which L Word? Which L Word is this going to be? Lesbian? Love? Laughable?
Lugubrious.
Yes.
Lugubrious.
Sorry, lugubriosity. Excuse me.
Yes.
Lugubriosity. Yeah, so I was intrigued by the title. I'm like, oh, maybe I should listen to this one a little bit. And I enjoyed, as I listened to it, it's like, oh, it's talking about why you can't handle the L Word. I'm like, okay, cool. So I can dig it. I can kind of feel it. What's going on with it? It's about nothing necessarily like outside. Like I can't talk to like in detail like you, like Drew and DJM can about like how you felt about it. I just know that
Well, we're professionals, shoot John.
I just know that
Wait, hold on. You getting paid for this? Hold on. Where's my cut, Petey?
You didn't. Oh, why do you think I? You know, it was in the negotiations, Drew. No.
Life's hard, man.
DJM, man. Come on.
It's the gig economy.
Gotta ask somebody.
Sorry.
I'm DJM. Come on now.
See how it is.
But yeah, so like it's really hard for me to like pick any like one song because like I kind of felt the whole album in some respect, but like it definitely feels like something I would appreciate more live and like with a whole other crowd of people. Like we're just like with it, we're in the moment, and her like talking about herself and her problems.
Yeah. I do have to say
That's
I
one
did,
snort.
Yes, exactly. Chalk it up, one snort. That is definitely one of the things about the experience of like watching Lex live. I think it's been the thing of like where I think her and Alpha Riff, where I think there's really solid albums, but definitely added to the value of it is experiencing them live, performing that with other like-minded nerds and weirdos, which is a fun experience, and I highly recommend it because I think by the time this goes out, Lex will still be on the Crazy Switch Asians tour.
Crazy Switch Asians? Like Nintendo Switch?
Yep.
Okay.
She's, so go check that
video
out.
games, you guys.
And that
you know
is
Nerdcore.
It's Lex and Super Smack. It's just a tour between the two of them.
Is it like a nation tour or is it a East Coast thing?
It's around the country. I gotta look it up while I'm pulling this up. But yeah, while I'm pulling that up, let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about some conclusive thoughts. David, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album as a whole?
Conclusively, Petey Rave, I would say if this were the first album of this style I'd ever heard, I'd probably be super impressed. If this were like the first or one of the first Nerdcore albums I had ever heard, I'd be really impressed. The creative production and the music behind her, the beats mixed with the guitars and the electronics, I really respect it. Her command of the language and her willingness to be completely open in her lyrics while also having this other persona. If this were the first Nerdcore album I'd be hearing, I'd probably be blown away. But it's not, so I'm just going to say that it's a good album. It's pretty much a good Nerdcore album. It checks all the boxes. It's her talking about how smart she is. It's got some stuff about how she got made fun of as a kid. It's got some Slim Shady influence in her verses and lyrical flow. There's a lot of Eminem influence in a lot of her delivery. And it has that also kind of Eminem Slim Shady dual persona thing also. So it kind of checks a lot of those Nerdcore boxes. It's a good Nerdcore album. It's fine. It's good.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what would be your conclusion on this album?
To me, I know I was a little harsh on it in the A block, but that is not to say that I didn't enjoy my time with the album or enjoy what she's doing. David's right. It's not something that blows you away, right? It's not something that if you've been in this since sort of the beginning, your front lots and your mega rans and your whatnots, and you've been around this horn and you're super into hip hop, this is going to fit right into it, right? It's going to slot right in next to Schaefer the Dark Lord, which is funny to me. Like when I heard her, the first thing I thought was Schaefer. which makes sense if you're saying they are very closely intertwined, Petey. Because I hear some of that here. That said, it's always good, in my opinion, to have more voices, because while like I can nitpick flow and I can nitpick this, that, and the other thing, it's rap in general is something that is about the story within and the viewpoint within. And I think that she gets her views across pretty well and her story across pretty well. And I think that's a huge part of it. And I think that's really dope. It didn't hit home necessarily for me on some of it. It maybe didn't hit as well for me as maybe something else might, but it was a fun album. It was pretty dang good. I'm not mad at it, but it also didn't. My socks were decidedly on the entire time I listened to it.
Yeah, you ain't mad
Well,
at
it's okay.
Snoosh, what are your conclusions on this album?
It's okay. Like short it's okay. Like if I threw this album in with a bunch of other albums and it's like on a shuffle list, be pretty decent. As the album as a whole, I feel like it's really kind of lacking maybe like a better narrative. I don't really know how else to word it. There's so much energy in the beginning of the album and it kind of dies down. It's a little mixed. And then the end has a couple remixes, I guess. And it was just like, it's okay. Like as a cohesive album, I think it's a little weak. But if each individual song worth it, you just throw it in, get a nice shuffle list going.
Yeah.
I think I'd have a hard time introducing this to other people without having some other examples to go with it. So like part of the whole hip hop nerdcore sector. Also, I was thinking of Shy Guy at some point because I'm like, oh yeah, Shy Guy. This kind of sounds like Shy Guy.
Yeah.
But less energy.
Yeah.
He's a little less energetic.
Yeah, I think I think the conclusion for me is that Lex is a talented rapper and talented artist that is putting together a solid foundation for her career and setting a solid kind of pace for themselves and it is really cool to kind of see. This album is really nice and really polished, and it's really well made. I think it definitely can see where you guys talk about of it. Some of it can be a little bog standard as far as like nerdcore, but I think it's all really solid and it's all really promising. And I think Lex has a lot going for them, and it is going to.
Don't snitch on us, Petey.
I just let them know. I just let the people know, that we're going to talk about them on the show so that they can check it out.
Stop snitching.
Hey, people take it well. I only do it when I know. I only do it when I know they're gonna take it well and they'll be cool like Alpha was. Alpha was really cool about it. I'm sure Lex is gonna enjoy us talking about the album. But yeah, I think I'm looking. The main thing I enjoyed this album, and the main thing I take away from it at the end of it is I'm also looking forward to how Lex's career grows from here. I see Lex many times on the Nerdcore shows, and she's getting features here and there, and working with Schaefer. They're good friends and working together and working.
She's got quite a discography already.
Yeah.
She's got 6 albums or so.
6 like little mini albums.
6, 7.
So, and then it's all growing, like several mini EPs at least, and then like, you know, she's got this as a full length, and like, you know, I think it's gonna be cool seeing it going forward. All the best to her. All right. So that brings us to the main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting and planning for. The moment
Planning vociferously.
Yes. We get to our haiku reviews.
I have
Drew,
mine.
Yes. Drew is very visibly excited and delighted.
He is so excited.
Uh,
On both screens, in fact.
Yeah. Now we get to our haiku reviews. David, what is your haiku?
I have no real gripes. Nerdcore by the books, although it's worth a listen.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what is your haiku?
Overall, not bad. A lot of times pedestrian. I dig the intent.
Mm-hmm. Shu-chan, what is your haiku?
Hits the nerdcore. Beats and spit and fire, yo. Life choices be made.
Mm-hmm. My haiku. Rising nerdcore star, making a name for themselves. So you peep this game. All right, that is all of our haikus. Those are our thoughts on Lex the Lexicon Artists, Raging Ego. You can, of course, check out this album on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers, the home game. Do your due diligence and your dude diligence. Listen along at home, play along at home. On that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, and it's going to be provided by David, of course. David, what do you have for us next week?
Petey Rave, Record Breakers listeners, I will be bringing an album. I've been noticing kind of a trend with albums that have been coming on the Record Breakers podcast recently. Albums that have been formative to all of us in recent times, in recent years. So I'm going to follow that theme, and I'm bringing an album by the band Threshold, a band that many had called back in the day England's answer to Dream Theater. The band is called Threshold, and it is their 2001 album, Hypothetical.
Mm-hmm. So that will be our hypothetical album next week. But that'll be next week.
Maybe.
And this is this week.
I hope.
We'll see. We'll test it, and then have a control, and then we'll peer review, and then we'll see how the hypothesis works out.
No, that's I think that's that's Clone. That's the Threshold album before this one.
Okay, good to know. But you can, of course, check that'll be next week. This week, and you can, of course, find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Drew is at Xtruciferx. Snoosh is at Artshu. Shu spelled SCHU.
ARTSCHU.
And what's your Twitch channel, Shu-chan? What's your Twitch channel, Shu-chan?
Twitch.tv/snowschu, SNOWSCHU.
Exactly. I'm at Petey
Not
Raven.
snowshoe, by the way. It's snowshoe.
Exactly.
Damn it.
I'm Petey Rave. The show is 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com if you want to email us. Rebelli.net for listening to the shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. Maybe, I don't know, if I start to get like antsy and want to stream. But yeah,
I
check
will
us out.
ban you people. I swear to God, I will ban all of you.
Apple. Find us on Apple.
Shit.
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify. Find us everywhere you find podcasts. Subscribe, like, share, do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
My foot's asleep.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.